She was afraid of a human breeding her, until she met the soldier. Lyra stood on the edge of the outpost platform, her pale blue eyes fixed on the distant horizon. The wind from the icy plains whipped her long silver hair across her face. She shivered, not only from the cold, but from a feeling that had been with her since she arrived on this human-shared world: fear. Humans had always been the unknown in the stories her people told. They were dangerous, reckless, and, worse, they had a strange way of controlling those weaker than them. Lyra had grown up hearing that humans were capable of taking what they wanted, and she had learned to fear them. She drew her cloak tighter around her slender frame and glanced down at the human soldiers moving about the base below. They looked so different from her people, not just in shape and color, but in how they carried themselves. Their faces were rough, their bodies strong, and every movement seemed filled with a purpose she could not understand. Her mind whispered warnings. Stay away, it said. Do not trust them. Lyra had been assigned to work as a cultural observer, studying the humans so that her people could learn to interact with them. It was an honor, but it was also terrifying. She had to speak to humans, move among them, and live in the same base. Every time she passed a soldier, she felt a quickening in her chest. She will be their next target, she thought. She will not escape their plans. One human in particular caught her attention. He was taller than most, with dark brown hair and calm gray eyes. His uniform was clean, and he moved with a quiet confidence that drew her gaze even when she tried to look elsewhere. Lyra did not know his name yet, but she had noticed him the first day she arrived. Unlike the other humans, he did not shout orders or laugh loudly. He seemed careful, careful in a way that made her chest both tighten with fear and relax a little at the same time. She ducked behind a column when he looked in her direction. Her heart pounded as if she had run a long distance. She told herself it was foolish, that humans did not notice aliens like her in the cold plains, but she could not help it. The stories of her people rang in her ears. Humans took what they wanted. Humans were predators. Humans could not be trusted. Her quarters were small, with metal walls and a single window that looked out onto the icy expanse. She shut the door behind her and leaned against it, breathing heavily. She tried to calm herself, telling herself that she was only imagining danger. Yet deep down, she felt that fear would never leave her, not until she understood these humans. She could not imagine living among them without trembling. Lyra moved to the small desk in her room and began to record her observations. She wrote about the soldiers she had seen that day, noting how they trained, how they ate, and how they moved. She wrote about the strange smells that came from the human kitchens and the way they laughed at things she did not understand. Each word she wrote was careful, precise, because she did not want anyone to see her fear. But fear was hard to hide. When she returned to the base corridors, she noticed the glances from other aliens. Some whispered behind their hands, looking at her with concern. "She does not belong here," one said quietly. "She is too afraid," another added. Lyra felt a flush rise to her cheeks. She hated that they saw her trembling inside, even if she tried to hide it on the outside. During one of her observation walks, Lyra was tasked to deliver supplies to a human training hall. She carried a crate of food rations, her fingers shaking slightly. The soldiers inside were practicing drills with heavy equipment, running and lifting weights. The sound of their voices echoed through the hall. Her fear surged again. She thought of the old stories of humans forcing their will upon others, of humans seeing other beings only as objects. As she stepped into the hall, one soldier approached. It was the tall one she had noticed before. He did not run or shout, he simply stood in front of her with a calm expression. "Hello," he said, his voice low and even. "I'm Alex. Are you new here?" Lyra froze. Her mind screamed at her to run, to hide, to keep away. Yet she also noticed something strange. He did not reach for her, he did not demand anything, he simply waited. She nodded quickly, unsure how to speak. Her throat felt dry. "Do not be afraid," Alex said softly. "I just want to help. I can show you where to place the supplies." The words made her pause. She had never heard a human speak like this before. There was no mockery, no power in his voice, only calm. Her heart slowed slightly. Could it be possible that not all humans were dangerous? She did not trust the feeling, but a small part of her wondered. She followed him cautiously. The crate was heavy, but Alex helped her lift it onto the shelves. His movements were careful, as if he understood her fear. He did not touch her in a way that felt threatening. He merely guided gently until the task was done. "Thank you," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex smiled faintly. "You're welcome. It is not easy, working in a new place with people you do not know," she nodded, still unsure. She wanted to believe him, but the old stories whispered louder. Humans were dangerous, she reminded herself. Humans could not be trusted. After that day, Lyra found herself watching him from a distance. She noticed how he treated other humans and aliens alike, with patience, with respect. When a young alien stumbled during training, he caught him before he fell. When a human dropped a tool, he handed it back without complaint. These small acts confused her. They did not match the stories she had grown up believing. At night, she lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling. Her fear did not leave. Yet, she felt a strange curiosity as well. She wanted to understand this human, this Alex. She wanted to know why he did not follow the cruel ways of others she had heard about. She wanted to see if humans could be something different, something worth trusting. But she also knew that trust would be difficult. Her heart still beat fast whenever she was near humans. She still imagined them as predators, ready to take what they wanted. She still feared losing herself, losing her freedom. She had heard of other aliens who had been hurt because they let their guard down. She did not want to be like them. Yet curiosity and fear can coexist. Lyra felt it in herself, a tug in opposite directions. She feared Alex, she feared what humans could do, yet she wanted to understand them. She wanted to see if the stories she had been told were true. She wanted to see if humans could be more than the predators her people believed them to be. The next morning, Lyra watched Alex train. He ran across the field, lifting heavy weights, moving with strength and precision. She noticed how other soldiers respected him. They listened when he spoke, not because he forced them, but because they chose to. There was a confidence in him that did not scare her. It intrigued her. She took a deep breath. She did not know if she could ever fully trust a human, but she knew she wanted to try. She wanted to see if the fear in her heart could be replaced by understanding. She wanted to see if humans, at least some of them, were not what the old stories had said. And so she made a quiet promise to herself. She would watch. She would learn. She would not let fear control her entirely. She would face the unknown, step by step, even if her heart raced and her hands shook. Lyra did not know it yet, but this decision would change everything. Her life on this border world, her understanding of humans, and her own future would all shift from this point forward. And it all began with watching a single soldier named Alex, who moved not with cruelty or power, but with care and strength. As the cold wind blew across the platform that evening, Lyra wrapped her cloak around herself and looked toward the horizon. Fear still lingered, but curiosity had taken root. And sometimes, that was the first step toward courage. The storm came suddenly. One moment the sky was pale blue, and the icy plain stretched quietly under the sun. The next moment, heavy clouds rolled in, and the wind grew stronger than Lyra had ever felt. Snow whipped across the platform and stung her face. She pulled her cloak tighter, but it did little against the freezing gusts. The outpost was suddenly a maze of shadows and white, and she could barely see the buildings around her. A loud alarm echoed through the base. The human soldiers were called to action. Lyra froze, her heart pounding. She had only learned a little about emergency drills, but she had never experienced anything like this. Panic started to rise inside her. The wind pushed her back and forth, and her legs shook as she tried to move. She did not know where to go, where to hide, or if she could survive the storm. Then she saw him. Alex, the soldier she had watched so carefully before. He was moving through the storm with calm and precision. Despite the wind, his face was steady, his eyes focused. He shouted directions to other soldiers, telling them where to secure equipment and which doors to lock. His voice carried through the wind without fear or anger. Lyra hesitated, unsure if she should follow. The stories of her people warned her that humans could be dangerous. She could easily be hurt if she got close. Yet she felt something else, something she had never felt before around a human. Trust. Not complete trust, but a spark of it. Something told her that Alex would not let her be harmed. Without thinking, she ran toward him. Snow stung her face and her small legs struggled to carry her across the icy ground. Alex noticed her immediately. He ran to meet her, holding out his arm to shield her from the worst of the wind. "Come here," he shouted. "Follow me, stay close." Lyra obeyed, her fear mixing with a strange relief. She kept her eyes on him as he led her into a side corridor of the outpost. The walls were narrow and protected them from the worst of the storm. She realized that for the first time she felt a small part of safety near a human. It was not complete safety. She still tensed when she heard the wind howl, but she did not feel the same terror she had felt before. They reached a storage room where some supplies had been blown about. Alex bent down and lifted a crate of blankets. "Help me carry this," he said. Lyra nodded, and together they moved the blankets to a small corner. The warmth from the fabric was comforting against the cold air that still crept in through the walls. She realized that he did not treat her as weak or fragile. He treated her as a partner, someone who could help. While they worked, Alex spoke quietly, though loud enough to be heard over the wind. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You don't have to be afraid. I will not let anything happen to you." Lyra wanted to speak, to tell him that humans could not be trusted, that she was not safe, but the words did not come. Instead, she nodded. The sincerity in his eyes was undeniable. There was no trick, no hidden threat. He meant what he said. For the first time, she felt that perhaps humans could be different from the stories she had learned. Suddenly, a cry echoed from another part of the outpost. Lyra turned to see a small alien child trapped near a door, too weak to move against the wind. Without thinking, Alex ran to the child. Lyra tried to follow, but her small legs struggled against the snow blowing through the broken windows. She watched as he lifted the child into his arms. His grip was strong but gentle, cradling the young one against the cold. "Stay here," he shouted over his shoulder. "I will bring them to safety." Lyra wanted to run to help, but she realized she could not reach him in time. She stayed where she was, shivering, hoping that he could save the child. Minutes passed like hours. Her chest ached with fear. She could barely breathe, but then she saw him again. Alex emerged from the storm, carrying the child. His uniform was wet and covered in snow, but he moved steadily, as if nothing could stop him. He handed the child to another soldier waiting nearby. The child cried, but it was not fear, only discomfort from the cold. Alex returned to her side, brushing snow from his shoulders. "See," he said quietly, "we are okay. We made it." Lyra's heart pounded. She wanted to speak, to ask why he helped, why he did not hurt her. But she only looked at him, her fear slowly melting into something else. Wonder. Humans could be brave. Humans could protect. Maybe they could even be trusted. The storm raged on, but inside the small corridor, a strange warmth filled her chest. She realized that the fear she had carried for so long was not the whole truth. Not all humans were cruel. Not all humans wanted to take or harm. At least not Alex. He was different. For the next hours, they worked together. Alex guided her through the base, helping to secure doors and move supplies. He spoke calmly, explaining what needed to be done, showing her how to lift crates safely, and teaching her simple ways to navigate the storm. Lyra listened carefully, absorbing every word. She still feared the humans she had not met, but around Alex, the fear was quieter, replaced by curiosity and a cautious hope. As night fell, the storm began to ease. The snow slowed and the wind became a cold whisper instead of a roar. Lyra and Alex finally found a small, safe room in the corner of the base. It had been reinforced to withstand strong winds. They entered together, and Alex set down a crate of blankets. "We will rest here for a while," he said. "It is safer." "The storm is not gone, but it is calmer." Lyra nodded, still shivering. She wrapped herself in a blanket, grateful for the warmth. Alex sat nearby, watching her carefully but without intrusion. He did not demand that she speak or that she explain her fear. He simply allowed her to be. She felt something she had never felt before, a strange sense of trust. She did not know if it was complete or if it would last, but it was there. She realized that humans could be more than the stories told her people had said. Maybe some humans were kind, strong, and brave. Maybe some humans could be friends. As they rested, Alex spoke again, quietly this time. "You do not have to be afraid," he said. "I know it is hard. Your people have been hurt by humans before, and you have every reason to fear. But you are not alone. We will protect each other." Lyra's eyes widened. Protect each other. The words sounded strange but comforting. She realized that she had never heard anything like this before. Humans were supposed to take, to control, to dominate. But Alex spoke of protection, not power. The idea was foreign, but it felt right. For the first time in her life on this world, Lyra allowed herself to relax. Not fully, but a little. She did not have to be perfect. She did not have to be ready for every danger. She could simply be. And in that small moment she felt a spark of hope. The hours passed and the storm faded completely. Snow drifted lightly over the plains outside, and the sky turned a pale shade of blue. The outpost was quiet now, except for the soft sound of breathing from soldiers resting and equipment settling. Lyra and Alex remained in the safe room, sitting together in silence. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," she said. Alex smiled faintly. "You do not need to thank me," he replied. "We help each other, that is how we survive." The simplicity of his words struck her. Survive, not dominate, not conquer, just survive together. Lyra realized that this small lesson was more important than any observation she could record. It was more important than the fear she had carried for so long. As she looked at Alex, she felt the first real spark of trust. Maybe, just maybe, humans could be different. Maybe fear did not have to rule her life. She did not understand everything yet, but for the first time she wanted to. That night, as she lay wrapped in blankets, listening to the wind outside, Lyra made another quiet promise to herself. She would learn about humans, one step at a time. She would not allow fear to decide her life. And perhaps, one day, she could understand why this human soldier, Alex, had shown her that humans could protect rather than harm. And so, in the heart of the storm, a seed of hope grew inside her. It was small, fragile, and easily destroyed, but it was real. And for the first time, Lyra felt that the stories she had been told might not be the whole truth. And somewhere, deep in her heart, she knew that meeting Alex was only the beginning. After the storm, the base felt different. The corridors were quiet, with only a few soldiers moving supplies or checking equipment. Lyra walked carefully, her steps echoing against the metal floors. She had spent the night thinking about what had happened during the storm. Alex had protected her. He had rescued the young alien child. He had done all of this without a hint of cruelty. The idea that humans could be violent and dangerous felt weaker now, like smoke drifting away in the wind. Yet she could not fully trust it. The fear in her chest had not disappeared. It lingered like a shadow. She remembered the stories her people had told her, stories of humans taking control and using other beings. Her mind argued with itself. She wanted to believe in what she had seen, but fear was stronger than hope. Lyra decided to learn more. She could not simply rely on what one human had done. She needed evidence, something real. She began to ask questions. Quietly, she spoke to a human medic named Lily, a kind woman with short blonde hair and gentle eyes. Lily explained how humans cared for each other. She described how soldiers trained to protect life, how they worked together, and how they never forced anyone to do something against their will. "You see," Lily said, her voice calm, "humans choose their partners and friends. No one is forced. We work together, we help each other, and we respect each other's choices. That is how we survive." Lyra listened carefully. Each word felt like a small light in the darkness of her fear. She had never heard humans described this way before. The old stories had been about power and control, but what Lily spoke of was different. It was about choice and protection. It was about trust. Later that day, Lyra met Alex again. He was repairing equipment outside the training hall. Snow still covered parts of the base, but the air was clear. She approached slowly, unsure how to start. "Hello," she said softly. Alex looked up and smiled. "Hello," he replied. "How are you feeling today?" I am learning," Lyra said, "about humans, about your people." "It is different from what I was told," Alex nodded. "That is normal. Stories are often made from fear. They are not always true." Lyra hesitated, then asked the question that had been on her mind since the storm. "Why did you help me? Why did you save the child?" Alex paused, wiping snow from his jacket. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said simply. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We do not take what is not ours. We choose to care. That is how we survive together." Lyra looked at him, her fear slowly melting. It was not gone, but the sharp edge of it had dulled. She realized that humans could be different, and that some humans, like Alex, were capable of true kindness and bravery. Over the next few days, Lyra spent more time observing the humans, especially Alex. She watched how he trained younger soldiers, how he helped them when they struggled, and how he never raised his voice unnecessarily. He was firm when needed, but never cruel. He respected everyone, human or alien, and he expected the same respect in return. She began to understand that the old stories her people had told were not entirely true. Humans were not all dangerous or cruel. Some were brave, some were kind, and some, like Alex, were willing to risk their lives to protect others. The more she watched, the more her fear lessened. One evening, the base received a message about a neighboring settlement under threat from wild creatures. Alex and a team of soldiers were preparing to leave immediately. Lyra watched as he organized the supplies, checking weapons and medical kits, giving clear instructions. There was no shouting, no aggression, only calm and authority. Curiosity and concern rose inside Lyra. She had never been near a human during danger before. The old stories whispered in her mind, but another voice, quieter but stronger, reminded her of the storm and how Alex had protected her. She decided to follow, keeping a careful distance. She wanted to see what humans could do when faced with real danger. As they approached the settlement, the ground shook beneath them. The creatures were larger than she had imagined, fast and powerful, with sharp claws and teeth. Some humans faltered, but Alex moved with determination. He led the group strategically, protecting the civilians and guiding soldiers. He did not strike recklessly, but with precision. Every move was calculated to defend, not destroy unnecessarily. Lyra was amazed. She had never seen a human act with such skill and care. Alex moved among the chaos, lifting fallen debris, shielding the frightened, and guiding others to safety. He did not act alone, but his presence inspired trust and courage in the humans and aliens alike. She realized that humans were not monsters. They were capable of great strength, yes, but not just in battle. Their true strength was in their ability to care for each other, to choose to protect rather than harm. Alex was the living example of this. He risked himself without expectation, without force, simply because it was the right thing to do. After the danger passed, Lyra approached him. He was tending to a wounded human soldier, applying a bandage with gentle hands. She waited, unsure if she should speak. Finally, he looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Did you see?" he asked. Yes," Lyra said. "You are different from the stories. Humans can protect, not just take." Alex nodded. "Some can, some cannot. It depends on the choice we make. You must decide who to trust, but remember, not everyone is as we are taught to fear." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had spent so long afraid of humans, imagining them as predators who could never be trusted. Now she saw a different truth. Humans could be kind, brave, and honorable. They could choose to protect, to care, to build trust. Over the next few weeks, Lyra spent more time learning from Alex and the other humans. She asked questions, observed their behavior, and slowly allowed herself to feel safe around them. She still felt fear sometimes. It was natural, but it was no longer overwhelming. She had seen enough to know that humans were not all the same. They could be different, and she could choose to believe in the good ones. She also began to understand that her fear had not been just about humans. It had been about losing control, about the unknown. But with Alex, she realized that trust was not weakness. It was a choice. And choosing to trust, even carefully, could lead to understanding and friendship. One evening, as the sun set over the icy plains, Lyra walked with Alex outside the base. The sky was a soft orange, and the wind was gentle. She looked at him and spoke softly. "I am learning," she said. "I am learning that humans are not all monsters, that some can be kind and brave." Alex nodded. "That is true," he said. "But remember, it is a choice. We choose to protect, to care, to respect. It is not easy, but it is the right way." Lyra smiled faintly. She felt lighter than she had in years. The fear that had weighed on her since she arrived on this world was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She had begun to see the truth, and it was stronger than any story she had been told. As night fell, she returned to her quarters, thinking about the events of the day. She had faced humans in danger. She had seen them protect and care, and she had learned that trust could exist even in a world that seemed frightening. She knew that she still had much to learn, but the path was clear. She would continue to observe, to understand, and to trust carefully. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of hope. She realized that humans were not enemies to fear blindly. They were complex, capable of great courage and kindness. And in the center of that truth stood Alex, a soldier who showed her what humans could be when they chose to protect rather than take. As she lay in her bed that night, looking out at the quiet plains, Lyra made another promise to herself. She would not allow fear to guide her life. She would see humans for what they truly were, and she would choose her trust carefully. And perhaps one day she could see Alex not just as a protector, but as a true friend, someone who could teach her what it meant to believe in humans. And with that thought, Lyra closed her eyes, letting the quiet hope fill her heart. She was not free from fear yet, but she had taken the first steps toward understanding. And for the first time, she felt that humans and her own choices could lead to something better than fear. The icy plains had grown quieter after the storm, but tension still hung over the base. Rumors spread that wild creatures had moved closer to the settlement, searching for food after the harsh weather. Soldiers prepared for possible attacks, checking weapons and reinforcing barriers. Lyra watched from a distance, her heart beating faster than usual. She had seen humans face danger before, but this time she felt she could be part of it. Alex moved through the base with calm authority. He organized patrols, checked weapons, and spoke quietly to each soldier, making sure everyone knew their role. Lyra noticed how he spoke to both humans and aliens. His tone was firm but gentle, giving clear directions without raising his voice. She realized again that he inspired trust not through fear, but through respect. "Lyra," he called softly, "come with me. I want you to see something." She followed him cautiously. He led her to the outer wall of the base. Through the clearing, she could see tracks in the snow, large, deep prints moving toward the base. The creatures were coming closer. Fear prickled in her chest, but it was different from before. Now it was mixed with determination. She wanted to help, not just hide. "Stay behind me," Alex said, noticing her hesitation. "We will face them together. Do not worry, I will protect you." Lyra nodded, gripping the edge of her cloak. She had learned from watching Alex that humans could be brave and careful at the same time. She did not fully understand it, but she trusted him. For the first time, trust felt safer than fear. As the creatures approached, Alex moved quickly. He instructed the soldiers to form a line, placing barriers in key positions to slow the creatures down. He did not act recklessly. Every movement was calculated, designed to defend the base and the people inside it. Lyra watched closely, amazed at his focus and control. When the first creatures appeared, they were faster and larger than she had imagined. Snow sprayed into the air as they ran, their eyes glinting with hunger. Some of the soldiers fired carefully, aiming to scare the creatures back, not to kill unnecessarily. Alex moved between them, guiding and protecting, his eyes constantly scanning for danger. Lyra's heart raced. She had never seen a human act with such bravery. Yet it was not the fearlessness that struck her most, it was the care. He was not attacking for power or dominance. He was defending life, human and alien alike. A smaller creature broke through one of the barriers, charging toward a young alien boy. Without hesitation, Alex pushed the boy out of the way, catching him and pulling him behind a reinforced wall. Lyra gasped, her fear surging, but she also felt awe. This human risked himself to protect others. He did not seek reward or recognition. He acted because it was right. "Are you okay?" he asked the boy, checking for injuries. The boy nodded, eyes wide with relief. Alex turned to Lyra, giving her a reassuring nod. "See, we are okay. Stay close." Hours passed as they worked together. The creatures kept coming, but Alex's calm leadership allowed the soldiers to respond efficiently. Lyra assisted by moving supplies and helping the smaller aliens find safe spots inside the base. Each task she completed gave her a sense of purpose. She realized she could contribute, and she was no longer paralyzed by fear. During a brief pause, Alex sat beside her near a wall. He handed her a cup of warm water. "You did well today," he said quietly. "You stayed calm and helped others. That is important." Lyra took the cup, her hand still shaking slightly. She had never heard praise from a human before, especially not in such a sincere way. "Thank you," she said softly. I am learning. I want to help, not just watch." Alex smiled faintly. "That is good. Fear is natural, but courage is acting despite fear. You are learning both." As the night deepened, the creatures finally retreated. The soldiers checked the base for damage, and the aliens and humans began tending to those who were hurt. Lyra felt exhaustion wash over her, but also a strange sense of pride. She had faced her fear and contributed. She had seen humans act with care, bravery, and respect. After the danger passed, Lyra walked with Alex along the base walls. The snow had stopped falling and the sky was clear with stars shining above. She looked at him, trying to understand how a human could be so calm in the face of danger. "Alex," she said, I do not understand humans fully, but I see that you are different. You protect, you do not take. You care, even when it is dangerous." He nodded, his gaze steady. "That is true for some humans," he said. "Not all. Some are different, but those who choose to protect, to respect, to care, that is what makes us strong." Lyra listened, feeling the truth in his words. She had been afraid of humans for so long, imagining them as predators, but now she understood that strength could be found in protection and care, not only in power. Alex had shown her that with his actions, not just his words. Over the next few days, Lyra continued to observe the humans. She assisted with rebuilding parts of the base damaged by the creatures. She worked closely with Alex, following his guidance and learning how humans coordinated in dangerous situations. Every time she watched him, her respect grew. She began to see him not just as a protector, but as someone she could rely on in any crisis. One evening, as they rested after a long day, Lyra spoke quietly. "I am not afraid of humans as I was before," she said. "I still have fear, but it feels smaller now. Watching you has taught me something important." Alex looked at her thoughtfully. "And what is that?" he asked. "That humans can choose to be good. They can protect, they can care, and they can inspire trust," she said. I think I understand now. Fear is not everything," he nodded. "That is the first step. Understanding comes from seeing, from learning, from choosing carefully. You are learning well." Lyra smiled faintly. She felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of relief, pride, and growing admiration. She realized that her journey with humans had changed her. She no longer saw them as simple predators. She saw them as beings capable of choice, courage, and care. And in Alex, she saw the best of what humans could be. The days that followed were filled with training and preparation. The base strengthened its defenses, and the aliens and humans worked together. Lyra continued to assist, learning the ways humans communicated, worked, and made decisions. She realized that cooperation required trust, and trust required understanding. She was learning both. One afternoon, Alex called her to the main hall. "I want you to meet someone," he said. Lyra followed, curious. Inside, she saw a group of humans and aliens planning a long journey to secure nearby settlements. Alex introduced her to each of them, explaining their roles and how they would work together. "You see," Alex said, "humans do not act alone. We survive together and we protect each other. Everyone has a role and everyone is respected. That is how we can face danger without fear controlling us." Lyra nodded, understanding clearly for the first time. She realized that the fear she had carried for so long had not been entirely wrong. There were dangers, but she had been wrong about humans. Humans were not all cruel or selfish. Many could choose to act with honor, bravery, and care. And Alex was the example of this choice. That night, Lyra returned to her quarters. She looked out at the snowy plains, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She had faced fear, seen humans in danger, and learned their truth. She knew that the final test of her understanding would come eventually, but for now, she felt a quiet confidence. She was not free from fear, but she had learned how to face it. And in the quiet of the night, she thought of Alex. She no longer saw him as just a human or just a soldier. She saw him as someone who could be trusted, someone who could inspire courage, and someone who showed her that humans could be honorable. She realized that her journey with humans was far from over, but the path was clearer now. For the first time, Lyra felt that she could belong among humans, at least some of them. She could work with them, learn from them, and see them not as monsters, but as beings capable of true bravery and care. And she knew that the next step would bring even greater challenges, and perhaps an even stronger bond with the soldier who had taught her the first lessons of trust and courage. The days after the creature attack were quieter, but the base was never completely calm. Soldiers repaired equipment, reinforced defenses, and trained new recruits. Aliens and humans worked together more closely than before. Lyra walked among them, carrying supplies and helping wherever she could. She felt useful, strong, and, most importantly, safe. Alex moved through the base as he always did, calm, confident, and alert. He checked on everyone, from humans to aliens, making sure that no one was left behind or forgotten. Lyra followed him quietly, observing and learning. Every time she saw him act with care and precision, her respect and trust grew stronger. One morning, a message arrived from a distant settlement. A small group of humans and aliens needed urgent help. The journey would be dangerous, crossing snowfields and forests where wild creatures roamed. Alex gathered a team, preparing to leave within the hour. Lyra watched him pack supplies, organize maps, and give instructions. She felt a familiar tug of fear, but this time it was tempered by confidence. She knew that with Alex they had a chance to succeed. "Will you come with us?" Alex asked, looking at her. His voice was calm, but there was a weight in it, as if he trusted her judgment. Lyra nodded. "Yes, I want to help. I can learn more if I go with you." He gave a small smile. "Good. Stay close and listen carefully. We face danger together." The journey began across the frozen plains. Snow crunched beneath their boots and the wind whispered across the open fields. Lyra walked beside Alex, following his instructions. She carried supplies, helped the smaller aliens, and kept watch for any sign of danger. Every step tested her courage, but she felt more capable than ever before. As they traveled, Alex spoke quietly, teaching her how to read tracks in the snow, how to estimate distance, and how to predict the movements of creatures. Lyra listened intently, absorbing every word. She realized that humans could teach more than strength. They could teach strategy, patience, and understanding. One evening, they set up camp in a small valley, protected by rocky walls. A fire burned in the center, and the team huddled together for warmth. Lyra sat near Alex, feeling the warmth of the fire and the quiet safety of his presence. "You are doing well," Alex said. "You have faced fear and you have chosen to act, to help, and to trust. That is courage." Lyra looked at him. "I was afraid for so long," she admitted. "I thought humans would take everything, force us, but I see now that some humans can choose differently. You have shown me that," he nodded. "And it is your choice too, to trust, to act, to learn. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward despite it." The next day, they reached the settlement. It was small, surrounded by high walls, and several aliens and humans were waiting anxiously. The residents explained that a group of wild creatures had been threatening their food supply and homes. Lyra felt her fear return, but she remembered Alex's words and the lessons she had learned. She could act despite fear. Together, the team reinforced the settlement's walls and set up warning systems. Alex moved with precision, guiding the humans and aliens alike. Lyra assisted wherever she could, helping build barriers and organize supplies. Every time she acted, her confidence grew. She realized that fear was no longer controlling her. It was only a signal to act carefully. When the creatures finally attacked, Lyra was ready. She followed Alex's directions, helping evacuate the children and the wounded, placing barriers to slow the creatures, and keeping watch for any sudden movements. She moved quickly, efficiently, and without panic. The creatures were fierce, but the team was stronger, and Lyra realized how much humans could achieve when they worked together. During the chaos, one small creature charged toward a group of children. Lyra saw it too late. Before she could react, Alex stepped in, moving faster than she thought possible. He grabbed the creature with a strong hold and pushed it back, shielding the children with his body. Lyra froze for a moment, fear and admiration mixing inside her. "Stay calm," Alex shouted. "We are okay," Lyra nodded, following his lead. Together, they guided the children to safety and secured the creature away from the walls. When the fight ended, the creatures retreated into the forests. The settlement was damaged, but no lives were lost. Lyra felt relief, exhaustion, and a deep respect for the humans she had seen in action. Later, Alex gathered the team. "You all did well," he said. "Humans, aliens, everyone. We survived because we worked together, because we trusted each other." Lyra realized then that she had fully understood the lesson. Humans could be dangerous, yes, but they could also choose to protect, to care, and to act with honor. Alex had shown her this not through words alone, but through every decision, every risk he had taken, and every moment of calm leadership. As they prepared to return to the base, Lyra walked beside Alex, feeling a sense of connection she had never experienced before. She no longer feared humans as she had when she first arrived. She still knew the stories, but she also knew the truth she had seen, that courage, trust, and protection were possible, even among humans. On the journey back, Alex spoke quietly to her. "You have changed," he said. You trust more, you act more, and you understand better. That is what matters. You have grown stronger." Lyra smiled. "I have learned from you, not just from what you said, but from what you did. Humans can choose, and so can I. I will remember that." When they returned to the base, Lyra felt a quiet pride. She had faced fear, learned courage, and understood humans in a way she never thought possible. She looked at Alex, who was helping unload supplies and check on others. She realized that her journey had been more than just learning about humans. It had been learning about herself. That evening, Lyra walked alone to the observation platform. The snow was soft, and the sky was clear with stars shining brightly. She felt calm, confident, and alive. She thought about the fear that had once ruled her, about the stories she had believed, and about the human soldier who had changed everything. She knew now that humans could inspire trust, bravery, and respect. She knew that fear could be faced, and that courage was found in choosing to act despite it. She also knew that Alex had taught her more than any words or lessons ever could. He had shown her what it meant to protect, to care, and to trust. As she looked out at the frozen plains, she felt a quiet promise in her heart. She would continue to learn, to grow, and to work with humans and aliens alike. She would not be ruled by fear, and she would not forget the lessons she had learned. And then Alex appeared beside her, quiet and steady. He looked out at the plains, then turned to her. "You have done well, Lyra," he said. "You have learned much, and you have chosen wisely," she smiled. "I have because of you. Because I saw that humans can protect, not just take. That courage is in choice, not just strength. And that trust can be built even in fear." Alex nodded. "Then you are ready for whatever comes next. Together we can face anything." Lyra felt warmth in her chest, a feeling she had never experienced before. She had feared humans for so long, but now she knew the truth. She no longer saw them as predators or threats. She saw them as capable of great courage, great care, and great trust. And among them, she had found someone who had guided her, protected her, and shown her the way. The wind blew softly across the platform, carrying the cold of the plains, but Lyra did not feel the bite of fear. She felt strength, courage, and hope. She had faced the unknown, seen humans at their best, and learned that trust and respect were possible even across worlds and species. She looked at Alex one last time that night and spoke quietly. "Thank you for everything," he smiled, a simple gesture full of understanding. "You do not need to thank me. We protect each other. That is how we survive." Lyra nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle deep inside her. She had feared humans, but now she saw them clearly. She had learned courage, trust, and respect. She had faced fear and chosen to act. And she had learned that among humans, there could be friendship, protection, and hope. As she turned back to look at the stars above the icy plains, she knew that her life had changed forever. She was no longer afraid. She had learned the strength of choice, the power of trust, and the value of courage. And she knew that with Alex and with the humans who chose to protect and care, the future was something she could face boldly and without fear. And so, on that quiet night under the stars, Lyra understood fully. She had met humans she could trust, she had learned the meaning of courage, and she had found a bond that would guide her through whatever came next. The story of fear had ended. The story of trust, courage, and hope had begun.